Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavadikacharya Stota Sri Shrimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Iskam Bibidi Vandacharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavadikacharya Stota Sri Shrimad Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaja Ki. Ananta Gauri Vaishnavrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Pavanachananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki. Vrindavan Dham Ki. Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki. Ganga Jamunamaya Ki. Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Harinam Sankirtana Ki. Brihat Madanga Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Garanga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, Chapter 4, Text 21. And it looks like I'm the only one who's got the verse. So I'm just going to plow ahead here. And if they get it up there, great, we'll chant it. If not, I'll just... looks like getting closer. I'll start. Tasmat Padre Svatanayan. That was pretty good. Try it again. Tasmat Badre Swatanayan. Maya Vyapaditan Api. Maya Vyapaditan Api. Manusochayata sarva. Manusochayata sarva. Swakritam vindate vasa. Swakritam vindate vasa. Tasmad badre svatanayan. Maya vyapaditan api. Manusochayata sarva. Swakritam vindate vasa.
Swakirtan Vidyavejata Tasmat Badde Satavyayan Tasmat Badde Satavyayan Maya Vadpatata Abhi Maya Vyapatitan Abhi Manusochata Sarvaha Manusochata Sarvaha Sarvakit Vatita Vasaha Swakirtan Vidyavejata Tasmat Badde Satavyayan Tasmat Badde Satavyayan
Vaishnav, okay. Vaishnavis. Tasmat, therefore, Bhadre, my dear sister, all auspiciousness unto you. Swatanayan, for your own sons. Maya, by me. Vyapaditan, unfortunately killed. Api, although. Ma anusocha, do not be aggrieved. Yataha, because. Sarva, everyone. Swakritam, the fruit of results of one's own deeds. Vindate, suffers or enjoys. Avasa, under the control of providence. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. My dear sister Devaki, all good fortune unto you. Everyone suffers and enjoys the results of his own work under the control of providence. Therefore, although your sons have unfortunately been killed by me, please do not lament for them. Purport. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Chapter 5, Text 54, Yastvendra Gopam Atavendra Mahosva Karma Bandhanurupa Pala Bhajanam Attunoti Karmani Nidrahati Kintu Chabakti Bhajam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Everyone, beginning from the small insect known as Indragopa, up to Indra, the king of the heavenly planets, is obliged to undergo the results of his fruitive activities. We may superficially see that one is suffering or enjoying because of some external causes, but the real cause is one's own fruitive activities. Even when someone kills someone else, it is to be understood that the person who was killed met the fruitive results of his own work, and that the man who killed him acted as the agent of material nature. Thus Kamsa begged Devaki's pardon by analyzing the matter deeply. He was not the cause of the death of Devaki's sons. Rather, this was their own destiny. Under the circumstances, Devaki should excuse Kamsa and forget his past deeds without lamentation. Kamsa admitted his own fault, but whatever he had done was under the Kamsa admitted his own fault, but whatever he had done was under the control of providence. Kamsa might have been the immediate cause for the death of Devaki's sons, but the remote cause was their past deeds. This was an actual fact. Om Aganattamananda Shajananjana Shalakaya Chakshurna Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Swaparantikam. So, Kamsa is trying to get himself out of the mess he's got himself into. He just a few minutes previous to this, he's taken the despite the pleas of Devaki, he took the baby child, the female child, who she was begging, please, let me just have this female child. You're not destined to be killed by a female child. You're destined to become by a male child. So you have nothing to fear from this child. So please, let me keep this child as your gift. And Kamsa cruelly and just cruelly and harshly just grabbed that child anyway, and he chastised her, and he took the child, and he attempted to smash her, the female child on the floor there, but the child worked out it was Yogamaya Subhadra. Durga flew out of his hands up into the sky, and revealed herself. Hey, I'm Durga. You fool, Kamsa. You can't kill me. And actually the child who's going to kill you has already been born somewhere else, and that's going to happen, so you're a fool. Anyway, so the point is this, that here, it's sounding as if Kamsa is very genuinely repentant or regretful. Well, he's certainly regretful, but for what reason? It's doubtful that it's genuine remorse, because just seconds before that, he was ready to, cruelly and inhumanely kill this, the female child, which logically was not going to be the cause of his death. So he's basically, Kamsa's he's backpedaling. He's understood. His psychology is complex. There might be a slight element here of, remorse, but how genuine it is questionable. Mostly it's probably fear-based, 90% fear-based. He's understood. I'm in a mess. I've attempted to kill this child, this little baby girl. It works out that's Goddess Durga. Goddess Durga is who I worship. I think as mentioned previously that Kamsa worshiped Goddess Durga. So he understands that Durga is much more powerful than him. And, he didn't whip out his sword and attempt to attack Durga or anything like that. He just, what do I do now? So he's trying to talk his way out of it, basically. He's using the philosophy, but he's just rationalizing. He's trying to just using the philosophy to rationalize his atrocious behavior, his atrocious demoniac behavior here. That's what's going on. And so, and he presents various points. Previously, he's already mentioned that, well, I can't really please don't hold me fully responsible because I was misled. I heard this prophecy, the omen, the voice from the sky saying I'd be killed by the 8th child, and I was acting on the basis of that. He said it appears that it's not only in human society that there's lying propaganda. Apparently there's lying propaganda even in the realms of the devas and like that. He presents that as an argument. Then he presents this is another one of his points. He's presenting that actually it might seem like I was responsible for the death of your 6 previous children, but they were destined, by karma, their own karma. They were just suffering the reactions of their own past sinful activities, and I was just being used as an instrument to deliver their karma to them. And that's, Prabhupada says, that's correct. Philosophically, that's correct. So, it's interesting to note also how well, as Judah Karma pointed out in his class yesterday, how well even these demons know the philosophy. Kamsa understood that point. It's a subtle philosophical point, and then he goes on to explain. And basically, he appeals to them, as he did in yesterday's verse and today's verse and a couple verses coming, that, so please try to, view this whole thing, what's happened, from a very enlightened philosophical perspective, and forgive me, And then he did a good job of acting very sorry, very apologetic, and he fell down at their feet with tears in his eyes and, begging their forgiveness. So apparently, he also understood the point that, well, maybe possibly these are great souls, and I don't want to have the additional problem of having offended these great souls. So he's just, he's trying to cover his tracks here in every which way he possibly can. So, so as I said, the psychology is complex. I mean, one part of it says, like, how could he, look who's talking. How can, Kamsa's this biggest, all of a sudden he's talking this high philosophy, explaining this, like this today's point, and asking him to, think, appealing to Devaki and Vasudeva to be very, to perceive things from a very enlightened philosophical perspective and excuse him. Look who's talking. Such an atrocious, I mean, he's behaving so demonically up to this point, but anyway. But, yeah, that's the nature of the thing. He's trapped in the same situation, really, that pretty much every conditioned soul is trapped in that it's obviously that Kamsa, Hiranyakasipu, other demons, we get throughout the Bhagavatam, we hear they know the philosophy. They know the philosophy. They have the intelligence. They actually understand the philosophy, but it's acting upon it. That's the difficulty, and that's the challenge. That's the challenge that every conditioned soul in this universe faces. Whether they're going to what degree, not whether or not. It's not, because it's generally never black and white. It's shades of gray. It's just to what degree, to what extent am I going to act upon what I know with my intelligence is the right thing to do, and to what extent am I going to make compromises and act according to what I know is not the right thing to do, but is what is more attractive to my mind. And that's the challenge that faces every conditioned soul. And Prabhupada kind of refers to this in Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, text 6. He points out in one purport, he says, one who does not follow the regulative principles as they are laid down in the scriptures and who acts according to his whims is called demoniac or asuric. He goes, there is no other criterion but obedience to the regulative principles of the scriptures. It is mentioned in the Vedic literature that both the demigods and the demons are born of the Bhrgupati. The only difference is that one class obeys Vedic injunctions and the other does not. So that's it. Real clear. It's, if you obey the Vedic injunctions, then you're, divine. I mean, you're not dumb. But if you don't, you're demoniac. It's just a question of what you want to do. You see? So everybody's faced with that, has that choice. And, if you make the choice to obey the Vedic injunctions, you're a sura, or, a deva, godly. And if you don't, you're a demoniac. So Kamsa is struggling with that, Generally, he loses the struggle. I mean, on the whole, he loses the struggle. He basically acts like a demon. And but at the moment, simply because Durga appeared in person, and it's like, what's that? Smarsana, that crematorium. They say, everybody, when they go to a funeral, they become very renounced for a few minutes or hours, and then so it's kind of like that. It's right at this moment, Durga just appeared, and he's feeling, I better behave myself and get my act together. But it's going to wear off very quickly, because basically as soon as he goes back, and the next day he meets with his ministers, and they talk him back out of it again. He described to him everything that happened up till this point here, and they just told him, they presented some different points, and they talked him out of his whole determination to allow Devaki and Vasudeva to be free and not persecute kill the children and persecute the Brahmins and the cows and etc. like that. He just reverted back to his old demoniac self with the help of a little quote-unquote good association. So Yeah, so it's hard. It's hard. Actually, here's another interesting sentence that throws a little bit more light on the subject. Because Prabhupada's here. If I just read you those few sentences from that one purport, you might think that, well, yeah, it's very fair. I mean, the Vedic injunctions are there, and you got a choice. If you follow them, you're divine. If you don't, you're demoniac. But here's another interesting point that we have to add into the mix here. In the previous verse, two previous verses and purport, Prabhupada says, referring to the demons, he says, they do everything whimsically according to their own desire, and they do not recognize any authority. These demoniac qualities are taken on by them from the beginning of their bodies, in the wombs of their mothers, and as they grow, they manifest all these inauspicious qualities. See? So, I mean, if you would just hear that in isolation, you might think that, well, it is black and white. If you're born a demon, you're going to act like a demon. You see, you're taking on these qualities from the beginning of your body in the womb of your mother, and as you grow, you're going to manifest these inauspicious qualities. It doesn't, that's it. It's, it's set in stone, so to speak. If you're born into a demoniac mother, you're going to have the demoniac qualities, and they're going to manifest as you grow, as you mature. But anyway, so putting these two together, the way I understand it is that it's a force. You say, your karma it's a influence. Sorry, it's an influence, but it's not an absolute force. It's not an absolute force. It's not that somebody who's born in a demoniac family, to demoniac parents, say, yeah, they are going to take on those qualities from the very beginning of their bodies in the wombs of their mothers. That's a fact, right? And as they grow, they will manifest all these inauspicious qualities, right? And that's going to be a very, a very powerful influence in how the kind of person they become. But it's not an absolute force. If it was an absolute force, right? If there was no question of somebody who's born a demon being anything other than a demon, then what would be the meaning of Krishna's statement, where he says, Daivahi esha gunamayi mama maya durachaya mamevi epapajante mayami tam tarantite, that this divine energy of mind consisting of the three modes of material nature is insurmountable. But he doesn't stop there. He doesn't just say that. He says, but one who surrenders unto me can easily cross beyond them. You see? So in other words, it's an influence. It's not an absolute force. If there is a way out, so to speak, if one surrenders to Krishna, then one can, despite being born in, demoniac womb and having these demoniac qualities from birth and having them manifest as one matures, one can, get out of that by surrendering to Krishna. If that wasn't the case, why would Krishna say that? What would be the point of the Sankirtan movement? There'd be no point, right, in this whole Sankirtan movement if it wasn't possible to overcome this, these demoniac tendencies. It's another word. Tendencies, influence. It's a tendency. It's not an absolute force. So that's significant. It's significant, for us to realize, to meditate on that, because to greater or less degrees we're in that situation. Many of us, anyway, not all of us. We're coming from these, mostly people born in the West are coming from demoniac background. And it's hopeful. It's encouraging to understand, that okay, it's there. It's I have those tendencies, that influence is there, but it's not like it's an absolute force. I don't have to remain a demon. If I surrender to Krishna, if I surrender to the instructions of the spiritual master, I can become a devotee. It's possible, and that's the whole purpose of this Sankirtan movement. As I said, otherwise, why would Prabhupada have bothered? So that's there, and also it's important thing to remember, for ourselves, to encourage ourselves, and also to encourage ourselves about ourselves, and to encourage ourselves about the prospects of the hope of successfully spreading the Sankirtan movement. We have to remind ourselves that anybody can become a devotee. Everybody ultimately is a devotee. There's that verse, Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sabhu Kabenaya Shravanade Sutta Chitte Kodudaya, that pure love for Krishna is lying dormant within the heart of every living entity, and it has to be awakened by the process of Shravanade Sutta, hearing and chanting, coming in contact with the devotee, getting a book, that's hearing and chanting, reading the book. Then you're hearing and chanting. People get a book and read it, they're hearing and chanting. They're coming in contact with the pure devotee. Their Krishna consciousness can become awakened like that. So, they're inherently or intrinsically devotees, and it just has to be, have to get that good fortune. So that's an important point. So, we have a big responsibility. It's like because this, I just finished reading that book by Bhagavad Maharaj, Ocean of Mercy, and at one point he was asking Prabhupada, he says, Maya is so strong. How can I stay free from, falling into Maya? And Prabhupada said the secret of success is association. To stay in the association of the devotees. And then, at a later date, that it came up twice. He asked him, but sometimes I have to go do something that requires I'm out of the physical association of the devotees. And then Prabhupada further explained to him that association just doesn't mean being in the physical proximity with other devotees. It means, meditating on the instructions of the spiritual master. That's also association. And actually that's, Prabhupada on various occasions indicated that was more significant, a more important way of learning how to associate like that. As vapu as opposed to vani. When the opportunity for vapu is there, when the opportunity to serve the body of the spiritual master is there, or to serve the devotees is there, that should be taken advantage of. And in the absence of that, or simultaneously, even in the presence of that, one should, cultivate or learn the art of taking shelter of the Vani, the instruction of the spiritual master. And that's, of the two, Prabhupada considered the latter more important. Learning how to just meditate on and execute the instruction of the spiritual master. So, so it's a very important thing for us to do. And as I said, we have a big responsibility because everybody's kind of caught in that dilemma, to the point where, here's an interesting example of how much you can be caught in that dilemma. Dhritarashtra, I couldn't find the reference, I just couldn't remember clearly enough, get some key words to look it up, but I definitely remember this story or this point, that Dhritarashtra, there's one point where he acknowledges that he understands, he knows Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There's one, I think it's in the Bhagavatam, or definitely it's in the Mahabharata. He acknowledges, he admits, I know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I know that, what's going to happen. The outcome of this battle is all my sons are going to get killed, and but I can't. I'm so attached. I just can't give up that attachment, right? Does anybody else remember this? Yeah. Okay, it's correct then. Philosophically, it's correct. I said I couldn't find it. But he kind of knew the whole thing. He knew Krishna's Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knew it was going to be, the outcome he was hoping for was not going to happen. But out of attachment, he just couldn't bring himself to do anything other than what he was going to do, which was just support his son, Duryodhana, and kind of whatever. So, we have to... So that's how powerful Maya could be. Despite that, the fact that he actually had all that gyan, but zero vigyan. So we have to, try to share with other people this, this good fortune, and help them just kind of have the opportunity, at least, to make the right choice. Because at this point, in one sense, even demons like Kamsa, Hiranyakasipu are better situated than your average kind of human being in the Kali Yuga, because they have no knowledge. There's no, 99.9 something percent of the population there in ignorance of Vedic injunctions. So, Prabhupada, on many occasions would refer to human beings today as dvipada pasu, two-legged animals, because they don't know. They don't know. Even if somebody wanted to do the right thing, had some sort of sudden inspiration, let me do the right thing with my life. There's no, they don't have the knowledge to do it. They don't have a clue how to act properly. As Prabhupada said, the demons don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. So, whereas at least the demons in the old days at least knew. If they, for some reason decided, well, let me do the right thing. At least, Kamsa had knowledge of, Vedic philosophy, Hiranyakasipu, etc. But people today don't. So that's where we come into the picture. We have to, give them the opportunity to come in contact with this philosophy through the books, through the festivals, through, the temple, prasadam distribution, whatever, this, some way or another, so that at least they have that opportunity to to properly use their free will. When they decide, if they do decide to, try to turn towards becoming a devotee, at least they have something to do it with. They have some knowledge, and that's what's that's what's really that's an important thing for it's vital for the conditioned souls. It's even an important thing. A good meditation for us is just to be concerned about executing our duty, doing the right thing. I was just as I was driving home yesterday, I was coming back from visiting my mother, actually, and I was kind of thinking, well, it would be nice to be blissful and ecstatic all the time. That would be nice. It would be nice to be, like really realized and be able to, brilliantly present the philosophy. And, that would be nice. But minimally, what I want to do is just behave properly. In other words, if you just behave properly, if you're able to understand what is your duty and you execute it, you're safe. You're okay. I mean, it's just like, give a mundane example. Sure, anybody would like to have a Rolls Royce. I mean, I'd like to be really well built and good looking and intelligent and wealthy, but okay, at least if I'm healthy, I feel, well, that's something. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing in Krishna consciousness. It would be nice to be, blissful and ecstatic, or, a brilliant devotee who can know so many shlokas and present the philosophy so incredibly, But minimally, we just want to understand what is our duty and execute it. And that way we're safe. Just like when you go to school, it's, what's more important? Is it more important that you're having a really good time when you say, like in high school or college, or that you're getting, you're studying your stuff and you're getting good grades? Obviously the latter. So in the same time, and in the same way, in Krishna consciousness, more important, it'd be nice to have a good time. It'd be nice to have both. It'd be nice to, get really good grades and have a really good time. But if you have to choose between the two, obviously it's more important to get the good grades. So same thing in Krishna consciousness. More important than whether we're enjoying ourselves, which is nothing wrong with that. It'd be nice, but more important than that is, are we doing the right thing? And, are we understanding what is it that, the instructions of the spiritual master are, what he wants us to do, and doing that. And if we are, then we're in good shape. Then we're in good shape. Because everything we do during this lifetime, especially as devotees, well, for everybody, but, especially devotees, everything we do is being observed and evaluated. And at the time of death, we will be hopefully not punished, but rewarded or dealt with accordingly based upon our activities. Our performance is being observed and evaluated. So, yeah, very important that we always be conscious of that and just strive to be in voluntary compliance with what we've learned, and that's what's really important, and that's because Krishna reciprocates with that. That's actually why this community is New Dwarka is so successful, because there's like a critical mass, or a body, a core of devotees. That's the word I was looking for. A core of devotees who are serious about following Prabhupada's instructions. They don't have to be whipped or beaten or anything like that. It's just, it seems like Rath Yatra happens these, the last few years. Swas doesn't even hardly say anything. It just, there's so many devotees, like there's this core, even on a regular daily basis of devotees. They've understood this principle that just follow the instructions of the spiritual master. They've, and taken it to heart. Another way of describing that is service attitude. And Krishna reciprocates with that service attitude. He reciprocates with that service attitude on a communal level, and that's my understanding for why New Dwarka is successful. Because to a satisfactory enough extent, Prabhupada's, or Lord Chaitanya, Krishna, Rukmini Dwarkadish are satisfied with the service attitude of the members of this community. And for that reason, it's as successful as it is. Of course, there's always room for improvement, but the success that this community is enjoying is because of that. Because there's a core of devotees that have a good service attitude. And on the same thing on an individual basis as well. Our success will be determined by how good a service attitude we had. That's what Krishna is reciprocating with. That's what the spiritual master is reciprocating with, our service attitude. So anyway, I'll stop there. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Satyanarayana Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. Very nice class. Just a clarification, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were saying that the offspring of the demons have the tendency to be demoniac themselves, I am sure you were referring to in many cases, or most cases, but not all cases, because out of respect for the great Mahajan Prahlad Maharaj, I don't believe he had that tendency for even an instant.
Yeah, that's
or
a
maybe
good
I'm
point.
wrong. I don't think I am. Go ahead.
I would say that he was an exception. I think that what's described here in those sentences I read is the general thing that happens, and he would be considered an exception.
Jai.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the power of Krishna and his pure devotees is far greater than any demoniac force. I was just thinking like...
Well, let me interrupt just for a second. But it wasn't that he was transformed by Narada Muni. He was, but if you remember in that pastime, the demigods were coming, Hiranyakasipu had fled and they captured his wife and they were going to kill, I think they were going to kill her. Yeah, if I remember correctly, they were going to kill her. And then Narada Muni appeared on the scene and told them, no, what are you doing? And he said, well, that's Hiranyakasipu's wife. She's pregnant with his seed. So he's going to be a big demon like his father. So we want to kill him now before, gets out of control here. And Narada Muni told them, no, he's not. There's not a demon in there. It's a Mahabhagavat. So even before Narada Muni had an opportunity to preach to him, because after the demigods cooperated and they handed his mother over to Narada Muni, and she stayed with him in his ashram, and he preached to her, and he heard. His mother forgot everything, and he remembered everything. But so even before that, though, Narada Muni was, telling the demigods, said, no, don't touch it. Don't do that. He's a pure devotee. So, but go ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for a nice class too. I was thinking, one of the qualities of devotees, as in their spiritual body, full of chit or knowledge, they're all-knowing. So Narada Muni perhaps knows how the pastime unfolds or sees how things are working in the future. I just wanted to talk about this idea of providence and our karma and how things are fixed up in this life, at least on the material level, not on the spiritual level. Because Prahlad Maharaj makes the same point when he instructs his classmates about how just like bad things, I'm paraphrasing, just like bad things happen automatically, good things also happen automatically. Just kind of reflecting on my own life, because I, going to college and trying to change destiny, adjust things in the material world, how the folly of that is, because everybody is put in a situation according to their destiny, and really the only adjustment I can really make is my spiritual adjustment. Whatever is going to happen is on the material level is determined by my karma. Of course, Krishna, if you take the spiritual path, Krishna can adjust things in that way. So that's and also just even though knowing that, how forgetful I can become, conditioned by material nature, just like you're mentioning Dhritarashtra. He knows Krishna's God, and just like I know Krishna's instructions are in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's standing here, over here, but due to the influence of material nature and my association with it, I get conditioned.
Yeah, it's an easy point to understand intellectually. Just like you don't have to try to get a flu or something like that, disease or things come of its own accord. The good things will come of its own accord. Therefore, the conclusion is, don't waste your time trying to ward off distress or seek out material happiness, because they're going to come of their own accord. And therefore, what should you do? Just engage in devotional service. Those things are going to happen automatically. The distress is going to come automatically. The happiness is going to come automatically. So don't waste your time trying to ward off the distress or get the happiness. Just let it, what's ever going to come, because that's what's going to happen anyway, and then just fully engage in devotional service. There's that verse, Dharma svanustita pumsan vikshvakshenu katashriyat nadpadayat yadhiratim shrama evahi kevalam, that occupational duties performed by men are so much useless labor, shrama evahi kevalam, if they do not provoke an attraction for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. In other words, basically it's saying that anything you do that isn't like helping you advance in devotional service is just, you're wasting your time. So as I said, it's an easy point to understand intellectually, but it's a really tough one to put into practice in our life. I mean, everybody who's a devotee knows that, right? But who among us is 100% engaged in devotional service? It's something. It's like a work in progress. It's something you really have to work on throughout your entire life to become more and more just okay. Don't chase after the happiness. Don't try to ward off the distress. Let me just try to focus and concentrate on my devotional service. It's easier said than done. That's another one of the challenges that we're all faced with throughout our entire lives until we become pure devotees. Anybody else have any last Bhakti Avatar?
Thanks, Bhrgupati. Wonderful class. On that point that we were talking about before, did Srila Prabhupada in the purport, did he mention the demoniac tendencies were coming from the mother? Because it seems that in all the experiences that I can think of, all the instances given in the Bhagavatam, it seems like that the demoniac quality must be coming from the mother, because, for instance, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they were born from the great sage Kashyapa, who also, he fathered all the demigods with another wife. And then... Yeah,
it's a good point. I understand what you're saying. So, yes, probably something that requires to be researched, studied a little bit, looked at a little bit more carefully. But I think that the conclusion that we come to, even after we did that, would be similar or the same as the conclusion I made, which is that it's not an absolute force, it's an influence. It's an influence. It's not an absolute force. Whether you take on those qualities because, you're born in the womb of a demoniac mother, or for some other reason, like in the case of Hiranyakasipu and Hiranyaksha, they're born of divine parents, but they made some mistake and, they had sex life at the wrong time, and for that reason, these demoniac personalities are born. Whatever the reason is that you're born as a demon, you're not stuck. A demon can become a devotee. That's the bottom line. Whether you're born a demon because your mother was a demon, or you're born a demon because whatever reason, anybody can become a devotee. That possibility is there. Okay, so
Yes,
we'll
thank
stop
you.
there.
That's a great point.
Thank you. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.